A very, very good evening. A warm welcome to 2021. Welcome to Dan Really Likes Wine, brought to you by Pick n Pay. Another year of drinking wine in as much as we can. If you are watching this in South Africa, then you will know all too well that wine sales are currently on hold, as is wine consumption other than anywhere other than your own home. And that it is a difficult start to the year for our wine producers. And possibly, if you are watching this live, there is a presidential address tonight. We'll find out if, as suspected, the alcohol restrictions will continue for the next little while. It is not being an easy start for our wine community. But we will take it in our stride, and we will hope that it doesn't last too long, and that the sheer fact that we continue to make such fabulous wine in South Africa will allow us to pick up when the restrictions end and surge forward into the year ahead. And what a year it is, restrictions notwithstanding. It is the 50th year of Cup Classique in South Africa, 50 years since Siemensig gave us our very first bottle of South Africa's improved version of champagne. It's also 50 years of the Stellenbosch wine route, 50 years since officially the estate started coming together and creating what is now one of the world's great wine tourist destinations, when tourists are allowed to make their way in and get out to the wine estates. And to that end, on Thursday, I'll be talking to Bubbles Ferreira, Peter Ferreira from Graham Beck, the godfather of Cup Classique in South Africa, about the 50 years and what is planned for the Cup Classique Association through the course of the year. And I'll be talking to Mike Ratcliffe, the chairman of Stellenbosch Wine Routes, to see what they have planned for their year as we raise large glasses to both the art of South African bubbles and a wine route that continues to do so much for the South African industry. That's all to come on Thursday. But for today, well, we're tapping into the fact that we live in prohibition. And in just a moment, for the very first time ever, never done this before, I'll be trying bubbles without alcohol from Loveren's Almost Zero range, a ridiculously successful range in the light of the restrictions we had for so much of 2020. And in a second or two, I'll cross over to the CEO, Phillip, Retief, and also find out about some wine that's doing a lot for conservation and rhinos in particular. And then a little later, every 11 minutes, Bertus Basson opens another restaurant, or at least that's how it feels. The reigning South African Chef of the Year has got a new place. It's basically a KFC. Bertus has opened a KFC in Stellenbosch, but he's done so with great relish, and I'm sure with great success. Already hearing some terrific reviews of his fried chicken. So we'll find about the new spot, about his current restaurants, how they're going, but also try some terrific wine from two of my favorite producers, including Pinot Noir from an unexpected corner of South Africa. Now that's all to come. First of all, let's head up to Robertson, to the Robertson Valley, and to, I don't know if you can call it a state. I think empire is probably the right word. They're the guys who give you the Four Cousins, the guys who give you wine like the Retief Reserve. They've got a whole pile of wine and a whole load of different ranges. And they've also got the Almost Zero range. And for people who couldn't buy wine in 2020 but desperately wanted the next best thing, that Almost Zero range proved a massive, massive hit. So let's head over and say hello to the CEO, Phillip Retief. Phillip, a very good evening. Warm welcome to Dan Really Likes Wine.
Hi, Dan. Good evening. Thanks for having me on the show. Looking forward to it.
Oh, it was a pleasure. How was Christmas? How was New Year? Were you able to catch your breath, or has it all been building up furiously to harvest?
No, we've managed to go away and take a break. Unfortunately, as you know, it's closed down, the tasting rooms on the 28th. So a bit of a slowdown, bit of a dull feeling opening last week, Monday. I mean, everybody's here, but it's like, what now, when, and how? So as you said, this evening waiting in anticipation, but the news on the street does not sound very positive. So yeah, let's cross thumbs for maybe a three-day trading week or something of that nature. But yeah, well, let's see.
No, it's an industry that needs all the support it can possibly get. That said, though, it is an industry that's proved itself to be both resilient and also quite creative. And you think you guys fit into both of those spaces, but especially the creative space. I remember coming down to Loveren. We had a wonderful day with you and your team for the launch of the Almost Zero range. And there were a lot of journalists and media types with raised eyebrows. alcohol without wine possibly work? What on earth the von Loveren thinking producing this? In itself, I think it proved to be a great move, simply because you tapped into a market where people wanted to be able to have a glass of wine without the negative impact of alcohol if they were driving or pregnant or off to work in the afternoon. But there was almost a prescience to it, because you'd somehow, possibly subconsciously, realized there's going to be a large pandemic coming. We're not going to be able to sell alcohol, so we'd better have some alcohol-free stuff in the market.
Yeah, it would have been ideal if we could have at least continued to sell alcohol. I don't think that was part of our thought process. But looking back now, I think we started the process maybe 3-4 years ago of wanting to make a non-alcoholic wine, but the technology didn't really exist, and the quality of the final product wasn't right up there. And then with new technology about 18 months ago, by removing the alcohol from your standard base wine, in our case Sauvignon Blanc and Merlot, we were very happy with the final result. And yeah, you were here, I think it was end of 2019, and we launched Almost Zero then. And then lockdown came in March, April last year, which gave it another bit of a let's call it a bump. It was the only wine available on retail shelves. It's not classified as wine; it's classified as a non-alcoholic. So you're allowed to sell it within the current prohibition. But even before that, it showed very positive signs of success, and there's a much larger market for this type of product than we anticipated initially. We obviously knew and read that it was working elsewhere in Europe specifically. And then when the beer guys came on board with some of the strong major brands and success in the zero alcohol category, we knew that there was a market. And yeah, I think we were pretty much first or second to market with the product. Quite a few have followed since. And yeah, I believe that our product is right up there, and as good as it can be given the circumstances and what you do to the wine to get it to a non-alcoholic product.
I would suggest that the people who are buying this fall into three very broad categories. They're the simply curious. What does it taste like? What does it feel like? What sort of mouthfeel or sort of impact does it have? The healthy types who don't want to be drinking alcohol for one reason or another, and then just the desperate who really want something that is close to wine if they can get it. How much of an impact has it had sales-wise? And do you think you've converted people who might have tried this as an alternative until wine as they know it returns, but actually discovered they quite like it?
Yeah, you're quite right. I mean, pre-lockdown, you had a definite market segment, the healthy, younger lifestyle, teetotalers, people that want pregnant women, drinking, driving, mindfulness, people that are going on dry January, all those different reasons why consumers wanted to enjoy it. And then within lockdown, by default and by force, the only product available was non-alcoholic wines. And then a new breed almost got involved in the product. I mean, some of, you can call it maybe wine purists or wine snobs might have felt that it's not for them, but there's definitely a bit of a positive outcome from it too. Yeah, it's been good. It's been very good.
We've had this discussion with members of the Von Loveren team a couple of times on various shows through Dan Really Likes Wine, but give us the 90-second synopsis in words that people who don't make wine for a living, or people like me who fell asleep in science class for most of our high school career, can understand. How do you make this?
Yeah, it's fairly straightforward. Let's keep it simple. You have to start with a good wine, otherwise you won't have a good end result. So we use a Sauvignon Blanc on the white side and a Merlot on the red side. You use a spinning cone technique, which means that you use a machine that spins at a very high speed, and then you heat the wine to 80-degree temperature. And those two processes combined means that the alcohol evaporates from the rest of the wine, and that's how you actually get rid of the alcohol. So you start with a Van Loveren Sauvignon Blanc, for example, spinning cone, heated, alcohol evaporates, and you've got a base wine, and then that you can actually package and sell. So yeah, and then that is why you can call it a de-alcoholized wine. It is not flavorants or water or soda or hard seltzer, as you call it. It is real wine that has been de-alcoholized, and the integrity of the process is therefore protected vis-a-vis any copycats or very cheap products that might want to be sold as a mimic of this product.
And then to create what we're about to drink, which is the sparkling version, is that just straight into a bottle of Fanta and pop it in the soda stream and bang, you're done?
Yeah, more or less, but just to maybe correct you, we're speaking about almost zero, and almost zero is the still wine we have. That is 0.4% alcohol. So anything below, any product below 0.5 is classified as non-wine. Here we're speaking about absolute zero. It's a sparkling wine version. And absolute zero is exactly what it said. It is 0% alcohol. So over the past 18 months, the technology has improved and changed that you actually can get rid of that last 0.4% of the alcohol too without damaging your flavors. And that was the problem, say, 2 years ago when we ended up at 0.4, which was fine. And that's why we call it almost zero, because it's not 100% zero. But the one we're tasting this evening, the sparkling wines, are absolute zero. So same process, just maybe a bit longer to get rid of the last alcohol, and then, as you say, add a bit of fizz to it just before bottling up to a 3-bar pressure.
So absolutely nothing in this. This is completely alcohol free. There we see the first. In fact, that's that is the alcohol free sparkling wine. So I'm going to give it my first try. I'm genuinely interested to see what this tastes like, Phillip, because I'll be honest, I've had a reasonable amount of Cap Classique over the last couple of weeks, Christmas, New Year, my wife's birthday. So lots of reasons to celebrate, but it's all been of the alcoholic variety. So here we go. My very first glass. Phillip has promised me it'll be the greatest thing I've ever tried. Let's see if it pays.
You'll be surprised.
Well, I was when I had your almost zero. I was pleasantly surprised. Well, that wasn't what I was expecting. It's incredibly dry, which speaks to dry January in more ways than one.
Yeah, it's about 10 grams sugar per liter. So that gives you an indication of how dry it is. It's not bone dry, but obviously the sparkle hides a lot of that sweetness that there might be, but it is classified as dry. And taste that.
And the grapes for these, Phillip, also Sauvignon Blanc?
Also Sauvignon Blanc, yeah.
I'll tell you what, it obviously it lacks that sort of fizz that you get from the alcohol on the palate that has such a big impact on our taste. But it's a hell of a crisp. It's actually really refreshing. And it's got that buzz, it's got the bubbles, and it feels like you're drinking something that's putting a bit of a spring in your step. So I'd probably still nudge to the alcoholic version given the two choices.
Oh, of course.
Certainly not a bad alternative.
Yeah, I think if you had this blind or didn't know what the content was, maybe the mindset would have been slightly different. Obviously, it's not a alcoholic sparkling wine. It's not a Method Cap Classique, but for what it is, yeah, it's quite unique in the proposition. There's not a very big competitor set out there. So yeah, it's for everybody else for their own decision to make up and whether it's something that is palatable. I mean, there's so many reasons and occasions where a product of this nature could be enjoyed, and I don't have to go into them again. It's just for us a pleasure to be able to say that, yeah, it's probably what's the movie as good as it gets. Yeah, you can't do much more than what you have here, given the process it goes through.
And also with the dryness, I know people will sometimes, if they're not drinking, have a white grape tizer, for example, while everybody else is having a glass of bubbles, and that tends to be gone in about 30 seconds. Whereas this, because of its dryness and because of the nature of it, you're not going to gulp it all down in one go. You are going to savor it a little bit more and appreciate what has got a lot more going for it than I might have imagined. So, Phillip, congratulations, the Van Loveren team. Yes, again.
Maybe just an interesting point is that the kilojoules or the calories, what comes first, is it's 90% less than the alcoholic version. So that is quite significant from a health point of view, or lifestyle, whatever you want to call it. And if you compare it to a grape tizer, I'm sure the number will be as high too. So yeah, you can think it's similar, but it is completely dissimilar. and you've got definitely a healthy impact too, because the sugar content is so low. Yeah.
Well, there you go. If you're watching this thinking, Dan's looking very good for post-Christmas, it must be the black shirt. No, it's the lack of calories in the absolute zero I am drinking. That is the regular. You've also got one from an area of the market of bubbles that is getting more and more attention, and that's the slightly sweeter version. You've called it nectar, demi-sec, whatever you opt to call it. It's generally a little bit sweeter, and we're seeing, especially in South Africa, it's a market that is definitely growing. I'm seeing a lot more demi-sec popping up. A lot of people like Mouta Chandon finding themselves in a lot more wine lists with demi-sec. So I'm guessing, quite simply, this is just one with a bit more sugar to it.
Yeah, it goes up to about 35, 40 grams sugar. So again, it doesn't taste that as much. And if you compare it to demi-secs, I think that's 55 grams. Sweeter versions 80 grams. So this is still in terms of sugar levels on the low side, but you get it's for the sweeter palate. Just slightly sweet. We didn't want to make it anything more than it is. But as you say, there is a very distinct market for this type of product in South Africa. I always say the industry talks dry, but the consumers drink sweet. And I think if you look at the numbers, more than 70% of wine consumed in South Africa is the sweeter version. So what you and I drink is not necessarily what everybody else drinks. So we have to also follow what the consumer wants.
And it's fairly easy to understand. A lot of people are relatively early on in their wine journey. If it's got a bit more sugar, it's usually a bit more approachable first up. It's a little bit gentler on the palate. Difference just between these two. The dryness of that first one might put some people off because they don't particularly like a really dry wine. This is not sickly sweet. It's not saccharine, but it's certainly got more sweetness than the opening one. But again, though, it's got more going for it than I might have expected. I'm quite enjoying it, and I could happily drink some more of it, and generally be intelligible for a lot longer than if I drank the bubbles I'd normally drink, Phillip.
Most of us, some of us become more intelligent if we go with the normal alcohol. So.
We're getting some interesting feedback. Skalk Stapelberg, the king of pinotage. Any non-alcoholic product is better with bubbles. Well done to them. Pippa Pringle, well done to Van Loveren Family Vineyards for coming up with yet another innovative product. Kathy Rath, well done, Van Loveren. And then this is probably the most important piece of feedback that will come in through the course of today, Phillip. Would your mother enjoy it? And that is from Helen, my mother sitting in Belfast in Northern Ireland. I'd be quite interested to see. I reckon if I gave my mother a glass of regular and then filled her up with this afterwards, we'd have her dancing on a table within the hour.
Yeah, no, if that was for my mom, I mean, my mom falls asleep after a glass of red wine, so this is perfect for her too. So. Yeah.
Oh dear, and I see Charmaine Walters also watching, saying, hello Nickel, I'll try the diet bubbles if you do. I can't see that happening with either Helen or Charmaine, but thanks for the suggestion nonetheless. Innovation, we've seen it here with both of these, and it's fantastic to see South African businesses trying to address the situation we find ourselves in and coming up with new ideas. You've also innovated in terms of your corporate social responsibility, although it's not so much a responsibility, I feel, as a sense of what you guys really believe in and feel is the right thing to do. The Rhino Run range. I've got a couple of bottles. We're going to try them in just a moment. But introduce me to the range as a whole, what inspired it, and why you guys felt that this was something you not so much needed to do, but wanted to do.
Yeah, I think, and it links with so many other facets of CSI, whether it's empowerment or transformation or education or nature or biodiversity. And we launched this about, I think, 6 years ago, guessing it's something that someone brought to us. We like the name. There are quite a few other brands out there that also use animals or depict animals and have become strong brands. I think it's quite clear who they are. I mean, if you think of Wolf Trap, Porcupine Ridge, Fat Bastard. So we thought that there was something in the name and the brand, and in the process, we are also giving back to rhino conservation. In as I say, in the process, and then as of last year, we've now changed it to. We've added another dimension. Some say it's confusing. I think it's a good addition. Is that we've decided to change the range to an organic range. So now it's sustainable in another way. And I think it's a good interaction between the organic product with its unique challenges, and then also giving back to conservation in the process.
And that's obviously the right thing to do in terms of organic farming. It's better for everybody all around. How much feedback are you getting from people who are buying your wine? How much are consumers realizing this is what you're doing, acknowledging what you're doing, and saying, you know what, I'm going to buy this wine not just because I like the wine, but because these guys are making the wine the right way?
Yeah, 2020 was our first vintage which we launched, and that was only in the fourth quarter of last year, basically after the second lockdown, say August. So it's fairly early days. The brand has been with us for a while. The fact that we've changed to organic, I think that is going to be positive going forward. In South Africa, it's the African market or consumer is not that focused as for example Europe on organic products, although there are successful brands already out there. So yes, I think it's a question of us still marketing it better, communicating it better, but the response is always positive. I think that the challenge is to make sure that the content stays as good as what it was. Organic does bring some challenges with regards to that, but in general, with everybody, and I think that's one of the outflows out of COVID and is that consumers are thinking slightly different about the world, or most people are, and organic might also be one of the benefactors in consumers' minds.
So that's one part of the good karma that comes from this wine. The other is the more obvious, the one that comes from the name. It's very easy to jump on the bandwagon and support conservation and saying you're doing stuff. It's another to actually deliver, but that's what you are doing. When I buy a bottle of this particular wine, I see the Rhino on the front. My assumption is, well, this is somehow helping out Rhino. How am I helping out Rhino? What is the direct benefit of me buying this bottle of wine in terms of conservation?
Yeah, we give back to two rhino conservation organizations. One is the Ian Player Foundation, the late Ian Player, which was one of the pioneers in rhino conservation, and then the other is with rhino conservation within Sun Park. So a portion of the sales does go to conservation, and obviously for us to make sure that the integrity of the process and the flow of the funds does happen.
I think most people do tend to remember Gary Player, but sometimes forget that his brother is just as worthy of celebration. Ian, having done such incredible work, is celebrated in his second wine that we'll try in just a moment, a red blend in his honor. Let's kick off with the Chenin, though, 2020 organic Chenin Blanc. Introduce us to this particular wine, Phillip, and I'm already getting a fabulous blast out of the nose. Tell me a little bit more about it.
Yeah, it's very fragrant, very floral. The aromas are it's all there. And I would say if you want to link it to some kind of a fruit, then peachy flavors that come out. Perfect for summer, South African weather. A lovely wine. I wouldn't say everyday drinking, but it's what we want. South Africans with white wine along the braais and the coast and holidays and homes and entertainment.
Tell you what I get straight away. I don't know if you used to get them in South Africa. I grew up in Zimbabwe, and one of my favorite treats are those really sweet banana sweets that had that really fruity nose to them. It's got that tropicality to it, and a wonderful wine to match. What sort of price am I paying for this bottle, Phillip?
Yes, about 70 rand per bottle.
All right. Value.
I must say, I haven't had this wine for a while, as you know, and said before, we've got quite a few wines in our stable, and I didn't taste it before, but I'm also pleasantly surprised. So, I'm on a dry January, so this is now a bit of naughty for me, but I'm enjoying the sip.
As long as the wine is dry, you're absolutely fine. It still fits. All right, so that is a very, very pleasant Chenin Blanc. It's got a lovely punch to it and plenty of fruit to it. Thoroughly enjoy that. The other one is the one that's in honor of Ian Player. I won't go through Ian in detail. Now, if you don't know Ian Player, though, I'd recommend go and spend some time online, read up about who he was and what he did, because the impact he's made on conservation in South Africa is immense. And it's a lovely way to remember him. Is there a particular link between Ian Player and Van Loveren, or just fans and admirers of who he was and what he did?
No, there was no original link. I mean, we approached his foundation when we came up with the idea, and they were very keen and willing to lend us a name. And obviously, we are paying them a royalty for that. If I can put it that way. So no original link. Just now, future support and respect for what he has done and what his foundation is doing forward.
So it's a Cab Merlot blend that celebrates Ian Player, Dr. Ian Player. It's a 2020, so it's still a little on the young side. What is the approach with a wine like this from the red side? Something that you want people to be drinking quite soon, or to hang on a little longer too?
I think another 12 months. It will soften up, and the elegance will open. But yeah, for now, it's I would say the word that comes to mind is elegance. Over and above the plum and the fruit, or the plum and the berry, and a bit of almondness that you get in it. It's a Bordeaux blend, Cabernet Merlot. So yeah, it's very, very nice wine. And I would say another 12 months before it reaches its better part, I would say. Yeah.
Optimal space. Yeah, I'd agree with you. We often talk on this show about giving wine more time, but more time doesn't necessarily always mean 10 or 20 years.
No, definitely not. No.
Just another year. And well priced and organic, and it's helping out conservation. Basically, you buy a bottle of this wine, you don't need to go to church for a month. You're all taken care of. This will look after you, and you'll be absolutely full of good vibes, as my wonderful sister-in-law Angelique would say. Just before I let you go, Philip, we've got the magnificent Bertus Basson dropping in just a moment. One of the wines I'm drinking with him is some Pinot Noir from Robertson. Most people go, Pinot Noir from Robertson? What are you thinking, Dan? This comes from Springfield, and we sometimes forget, well, Springfield, Robertson, one of the great homes of Cup Classique so often made with Pinot Noir. When you do that particular maths, suddenly Pinot Noir doesn't seem quite such a stretch for wine out of Robertson.
No, not at all. We have one in our stable too, Van Loveren Pinot Noir. And yes, I know that wine from our neighbors too. I mean, so yeah, I enjoy the tasting with him. It's yes, we do have a warmer climate, but I think the clones and the rootstocks and the way of vegetation in terms of growing the vines have changed. So yes, and it's early harvesting normally. So we get very good flavors from it. It's not a big planted varietal, so the options are limited. But those that do some work on it have had success. So, yeah, it's exciting for the future.
I look forward to trying in just a moment. I also look forward to news soon, Philip, that we can sell and move and transport and get our wine out to the world. But at least in the interim, you do have something really cool and exciting. If you haven't tried it yet, if you can't drink, if you need to get hold of something, those bubbles, the Absolute Zero, are well worth having a crack at. Philip, thank you. Keep up the great work. Regards the assorted cousins and brothers-in-law and the family network that makes up the Van Loveren team. And thanks very much for the time. Really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Lovely seeing you. Bye-bye.
Phillip, CEO at Van Loveren. The guys who bring us four cousins, the Van Loveren range, the Retief Reserve, the Almost Zero, and now the Absolute Zero. 2 bottles of bubbles. And yes, it's not quite the same as having a great bottle of Cup Classique, but as an alternative in these times of prohibition, not the worst alternative to have a crack at. And also they're trying the Rhino range, and Kathy Rath chipping in. I love the Rhino Run range of wines. Excellent quality and a perfect price. Thank you for that, Kathy. I say that Shannon in particular, wonderfully fruity, big punch. Won't be everybody's ideal glass of wine, but a really nice Shannon Blanc at a really nice price. The Cab Merlot probably needs another year, as Phillip suggests, before settling into what will also be a very pleasant glass of wine. And speaking of pleasant glasses of wine, I've had many of them with a good friend of mine down in Stellenbosch, and he's somebody who I don't just enjoy spending time with, but I love watching the work of, because he is enormously dedicated to his community and to his craft. He's the reigning South African Chef of the Year. He's the owner of the coolest pig in Stellenbosch, and he's got another spot open, Specky's, his chicken shop, which sounds like it's just a really upmarket KFC. I can't wait to get down there and try it out. But for now, just chatting to the man in question will have to suffice. A very good evening, Bertus Basson.
Hi, Dan. Hope you're well, man.
I am extremely well. Lovely to see you. As always, you're looking annoyingly young, annoyingly good, and annoyingly happy. Has it been a good festive break for Team Bertus?
No breaks for us, Dan. We worked through, obviously. It's that time of the year for us. A little bit quieter than usual, obviously. No tourists and limited wine sales, but still not too bad, and we're carrying on as always.
The last time we had you on the show, one of the big points of discussion was the work that you were doing in the community in Jamestown. You were supporting the local fund, you were making meals. It was a time of real strife, but it was also a time when that strife was firmly in the spotlight. You get the sense, as with anything in the news, when it's been in the news for so long, people start gravitating towards other stories, to different stories. And so we don't see quite as much about how people are managing or not managing during the extended lockdown, the economic challenges that we currently have. What's your sense of where Stellenbosch is at the moment, where Jamestown is at the moment, and how your particular community is managing?
Sure. Look, Dan, it's tough for everybody. Stellenbosch, as a town, relies on tourists quite heavily this time of the year. And it's had an impact on us and our community and our staffing, obviously, and people around us, and people we know, friends in the industry, other chefs, restaurateurs. But what we do is we've decided to start our own, we call it the soup fund. So for every guest that eats at Acre and at Overture, we donate 10 Rand to our own fund that we manage. And from that fund, we look after kids in our community. So we buy fruit, bread, spreads, those sort of things. It goes off to volunteers who make sandwiches, and it's passed around our community. It's very hot at the moment, so nobody wants to eat soup, to be honest with you. But there's still a need to feed people. And I think at the moment our need has shifted from big pots of soup to looking after kids whose folks might not be doing too well. And then as the new school year starts, we'll reassess again and see what we can do. But there's still a need around us to look after people if we can and help where we can.
And the fact that you do it so willingly is testament to the kind of person you are. It also, I think, attracts you a huge amount of good karma. We spoke about something similar now with Loveren and the work they're doing with the rhinos and organic wine, doing things for the right reason. It's coming back to you a little because, amazingly, where restaurants are closing all over the place, despite the challenges, you have opened a brand new shop.
Well, it's not really a new shop. We just sort of repurposed Speck and Burner a little bit. So everything, look, we were very fortunate. We've managed to keep everything open last year. So Acres open, Speck and Burner's open, the Vryburger is open, Overture obviously is doing very well. And when the new prohibition came into place a couple of weeks ago, Speck and Burner doesn't make any sense to be open without wine, to be honest with you. Our spend there is sort of 50% food and 50% wine, sometimes even more wine sales. We are really a wine bar. And we started to close it for a week. And then after a week, I got a bit irritated, to be honest with you. And I said to Muddy, look, I can't bear a restaurant not doing what it's supposed to do, which is cook for people. So we launched a thing called Specky's Fried Chicken. And for now, it's like a little pop-up within our own restaurant. And it might actually become a permanent fixture. We just don't know yet. But it's been so rad. So we get free-range chickens. We braid them. We fry them. We do whole birds. We call it sandos, like a really cool chicken sandwich and a homemade bread. And we do chicken and waffles. And it's been super cool. So Stellenbosch locals have pulled in. We've had folks from Cape Town, folks from Paul that drive by Durban has been with us. So it's been crazy chicken stuff. And yeah, it's been so much fun. And I've got this affection for fast food and burgers and pizzas and stuff. It's not all fancy, and it's been very cool for us to do it. I've always wanted to have a chicken shop. I think next up might just be fish and chips. You just never know.
I love this aspect of you because there's the image of the top cordon bleu culinary chef, the Frenchman in his kitchen making 17-course gastronomic splendors, and yet here is South Africa's chef of the year, the man behind Overture, which is as fine a restaurant as we have in the country, happily making fried chicken. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, no, look, it's fun, and the next thing is coming soon. So if you've been to Acre before, we've got this beautiful long stoep in front of Acre, and we've got the whole building, but we only use half of the building for Acre. And next week, I hope it's next week. Next week we're going to launch something called the Snoopy. So if you were a kid at school, there was always a Snoopy where you could buy a little tuck shop, really. And the team have been working hard researching how to make samosas because I love them too. And the Snoopy will be a little specialized samosa shop, little hatch on the side of the road, really, where you can pop into for a samosa. And sort of this adversity that we face keeps us engaged, and it keeps the team creative, and it helps people to just do cool stuff. So that's really what it's about. So the Snoopy will hopefully launch next week. So if in Stellenbosch and in die straight for a samosa or even a cook's assistant, we've got the space for you.
He never stands still, does he, Bertus Basson? All right, so wonderful food. In fact, I think we've actually got a few photos of the team. I think we've got a photo of you and the CEO of Speckies. If we can pop that up there, Ronaldo. There we go. So that's a board meeting. Tell us a little bit about they're just running through spreadsheets there and a possible menu. Spec making sure that there's certainly no bacon on the menu, just chicken, please. Talk us through your pig and the relationship with this rather unique member of your family.
So we got him. Specky is 6 years old, and when we got him, he was like the size of a block of butter. He was 500 grams of just pure pig. And he then grew. Look, nobody told us that pigs actually grow over 3 years. It's like after a year with a dog, you can sort of see what size they're going to be. But pigs take a bit longer to get to size. And Specky grew over about 3 years, and he now weighs about 140 kilos. He has a home outside. He's got his own little private pigsty. So pigs do like their own space. But I think what people realize about them is that pigs are highly intelligent. They're very emotional. And Speck is a big part of our family. So Speck's best friend is Bruno the boxer, and that's where Speck and Bruno the restaurant came from. And it's just a big part of our life. So we've got a beautiful big vegetable garden at the back here that's completely fenced up, so he can't get in, because as soon as Speck gets into the vegetables, he just sort of eliminates and destroys. Eats. He's a pig. People often ask us if we're going to eat him. We'll never eat Speck. He's part of our family, and me and him talk a lot, and we've sort of figured out that if pigs had opposable thumbs, they'll probably rule the world, to be honest with you, because they're cooler than most people, or a lot of people, and he's just a cool guy to have around. So we do hang out with him a lot. They're very affectionate animals, so he does ask for affection. So we'll pop in for a little head rub, and he'll also give affection. So they're incredible creatures to spend time with. But I think what it does make you realize is that animals that we look at as food, pigs and chickens and cows and so on, really does have a different role to play in our lives if we've got time to spend with them. I think it's pretty cool. So Speck has really changed my opinion on the worth of a pig, to be honest. But he's a cool guy. You should come and meet him there.
I'd very much like to. He's top of my list of people to meet in Stellenbosch when I come down next. The world's only pig to be CEO of a restaurant chain. And lots of people are going, Angelique Kuvalakis, too cute, having seen those photos of Speck coming through. And then Petra Meyer, referring to your comments just a moment ago, super positive. Thank you so much for the great and encouraging vibes. Well, let's keep that positivity and head over to a subject that is a favorite for both of us. And we don't get to do normally nearly enough of this together. It tends to be between a computer screen, and that's having a glass of wine. And it's a great passion of yours. And it's one I admire enormously, because although you don't dictate to your wine team exactly what goes in, you do play such a big role in what wine shows up in your restaurants. And your Overture wine collection, I'd happily lock myself in for, forget the food, just drink wine all day. It's a terrific selection. It speaks to your own passion and your own love of not just drinking wine, but discovering wine, discovering the people behind the wine, the stories behind it. And I know that for you is such a big part of the wine experience.
I fully agree. People often ask us how we buy wine. And usually it's because we get to know people. If we're going to talk about two wines today, which is the Hogan Shannon and the Springfield Pinot. And both Jocelyn and Jeanette are cool people. And as I've gotten to know them, I've actually, sort of enjoyed the wine more. But a personal connection to wine is very important to me. And it's pretty cool. But we do hunt, and we do find some really cool stuff. And sometimes it's a pity when I drink that last bottle. You've got a vintage of something that you just really endure, and you're going to drink the last bottle. But wine was made to be drunk, man. You can't just look at it, man. It's just not cool.
Well, let's open a couple of bottles and let's start with Jocelyn's wine. Jocelyn Hogan Wilson, and not, let's be fair, not the best known name in South Africa. It's not a household wine name, but for the people who do know her, they look for her wine because she does have a magic touch to her. And although she hasn't been making wine for under her own label for quite as long as the better known names, what she does make, and in this case, Hogan Chenin Blanc, in my case, the 15, yours the 18, is something exquisite.
Yep, 100%. I mean, I think I've been buying Hogan wines for probably 4 or 5 years now. I've gotten to know Jocelyn a little bit through the time. Chenin is obviously, Chenin is of great interest to me. I think it's one of the wines of South Africa, that expresses South Africa, the base white varietal. It's definitely my favorite white varietal to drink. And that's what attracted me to it. But then recently there was a Chardonnay that was listed. There's the Divergent, there's a Cab Franc. There's some really amazing wines to get from. The wines are made in Banhoek. And this particular wine, the fruit comes from the Swartland. She also loves old vines, bush vine. She's just cool. But she's a cool person. And I think a mother. So she's a businesswoman. She's a mother. She works hard. She makes cool wines. She does amazing things. She really is epic. Eh?
And we have tried to get her onto the show, and she's been very very friendly, but said no, she doesn't want to do one over the internet. She'd like to do one in person. So I'm going to hold you to that, Jocelyn, when I do get down to Stellenbosch after I've had my meeting with Spec, which is obviously first on my list. In terms of the Chenin, yours is a little younger. Yours is the 18, mine is 15, which might even have been her first vintage. I picked this up at an auction, and I'm down to my last couple of bottles. You speak about Chenin Blanc being a terrific expression of South Africa. We've got the history of it. We have so much of it. It hasn't been that long that we've discovered just how well we can actually make Chenin Blanc. But if we look at this wine specifically, Bertus, what is it about this wine that screams out South Africa to you and just has such an impact on you as a wine lover?
It's got incredible depth, and I think it's if I drink a good Chenin delivers obviously in layers, and it's got a wonderful sort of crisp, almost stone fruity apricotiness, and then wonderful acidity, and then that like little touch of like almond you expect in good South African Chenins. But the wines are extremely well crafted, and then I can drink Chenin all day long. I think actually my two favorite varietals is Chenin and Pinot. And I just find that they sort of express where they're from really well, and they show what South African wines and Chenin, I think, is a forerunner for top-end South African wines. I think we've really focused on South African red wines for a very long time, but South African white blends are coming into fashion, and really big Chardonnays and better Chenins. So I think to celebrate South African white wines, and also white wines that can last. And we know that these wines, if you put a couple of years on them, their bottle age is really sexy. So it's very cool, man.
Yeah, I think mine being 3 years older than yours will have a little bit more of that blast of freshness. This is really settled in, and that rich, creamy seam combined with the minerality of it, and it's a wonderfully crafted wine.
And she's never. I think since I had the first wine, I think they've just become better. This is one of those winemakers that every year her wines just show better, and it's cool. And I also think bang for buck. Under correction, I think it's about $300 a bottle around there, which is really it's really worth it. It's not you'll probably have one every day, Dan. I know you probably have 6 a day, but under normal circumstances, for just buy a case of it, put it in your wine fridge, forget about it, and drink on special occasions or whatever. It really is worth it. It's a great investment.
Is this something I could have with a fried chicken waffle from Specky's?
Dan, I'm afraid it is, to be honest with you. We actually thought about it the other day. Was what would we drink with fried chicken? So I think the first thing is beer comes to mind, or cider. But I think fried food and Chenin would actually be a great combination. When you fry something, like a little bit of caramelization, crispy textures. This wine has got quite a hefty mouthfeel as well. I think it could work. Huh? I think we're there.
The Chenin and Fried Chicken Festival of Stellenbosch coming up later this year, hosted by me, Bertus, and Spec. I can't wait for it. No surprises. Ina Smith commenting, cheers to Drink Chenin, the force behind Chenin Blanc in South Africa. Ina, lovely to see you online. And All the best for 2021. Lisa Harlow, Happy New Year, Dan, from a very chilly UK. I believe it's freezing. Love the Hogan Shannon and had a bottle over Christmas, as well as her Cab Franc, another exceptional wine. Lisa, lovely to see you on again. Thank you. And hope you have a wonderful 2021 that warms up a little. And Daryl Balfour, who drinks more wine than me and Bertus put together, had a great lunch with the Inn at Speck and Bun a couple of months ago. Specky's is next. And there's a look at what you have to look forward to, Daryl. The chicken at Specky's, the little pop-up at Speck and Bun. Fried chicken and waffles just looks sensational. Throw in a bottle of Shannon and you are good to go. And that's Bertus with a mask on. Looks very different, doesn't he? Okay, so that is our Shannon. I know you love your Shannon. You also love your Pinot Noir, and I just happen to have the same bottle in my cellar. I picked up a case of it probably when I was down on the Epic, and I just haven't had any of it yet. So I'm quite interested. We touched on it very quickly a moment ago with James, with Phillip Retief from Van Loveren. The fact that it is Pinot Noir from Robertson. And we inevitably think, well, if you're having Pinot Noir in South Africa, it's probably going to be for the Hemelanada Valley. If not, maybe from Elgin, and at a stretch from a cool corner somewhere in Stellenbosch. But we probably won't get our hopes up. Robertson, that's just absolutely daft. It's far too hot. It can't possibly work. But then, as I said to Philip, you remember that actually there's a fair amount of Pinot Noir that goes into the bubbles for which Robertson is so celebrated. And then you start thinking, hang on, maybe Pinot Noir from Robertson isn't quite such a bad idea.
Yeah, I fully agree. And look, if you look at that sort of road where Springfield is based, down the road from them is the Wetsoff. And they also make a cracker Pinot, great bubbly, great Chardonnays, etc. But I think I fell in love with this one when I visited the farm. I went to Springfield and I had a taste, and I bought a couple of cases myself. And then they don't release this vintage every year, only when they're happy. So Jeanette says, look, we'll happily ride this wine down the drain if we have to, if it isn't the quality we like, which I obviously like. And I went back a couple of years ago, and they sort of miraculously had 6 cases sort of stacked away from their previous vintage. They were sold out, and I bought those off their hands. And I just really enjoy this wine. It's earthy, it sort of really shows sort of the earth tones of Pinot. But apart from this particular wine, they're not just all life in stone. I really enjoy the whole berry. I like the Method Ancien wines. And then they've got a new little wine called Albarino, which I don't know very well. But I had my first taste of it a couple of months ago. I bought some stock. I actually had a bottle of it yesterday. It is delicious. And they've also got the Miss Lucy as well, which Jeanette fondly tells the story of how they sort of made a wine to go with their love for food, for seafood and fish and fishing. So they just make awesome stuff, and they've got cool stories to tell. But it's also cool that both these brands, in my mind, are driven by strong South African women in wine, which is quite cool, and I think it shows.
And a trend we are very happily seeing more of, and I think that's going to continue strongly into 2021. You're a bit of a wine anorak, let's be honest, Bertus, as am I, which is why we love having these conversations. This particular Pinot Noir, I'm looking at it, and I'm not sure how much of that will come through on camera, but there's a real burnt rustiness to my Pinot Noir. It's only 2015, and we know naturally it is a lighter grape and it gravitates towards this sort of color generally, but all the more so with a few more years. But I think we were drinking some 1978 Bordeaux yesterday in celebration of my wife's birthday, and it had that same sort of rusty color. Just in 5 years already, the color that I'm looking at has changed quite dramatically. In terms of what we're drinking, what do you get out of a Robertson Pinot Noir that might set it aside from a Hemelanada Pinot Noir?
So it's obviously got upfront fruit, which I actually in this case enjoy. And look, drinking Hemelanada Pinots are, I mean, if you drink Hamilton Russell, Storm, Newton Johnson, Seven Springs, there's a lot of farms that has amazing Pinots, and also in that little valley they're also very different. And I always think that Pinot really shows off for winemakers' but just their personality, because it's such a difficult grape to work with. No winemaker is going to say to you, it's so easy to make Pinot. They also look, it's challenging and it is hard work. But it really shows. And, that little road, the Hemelanada road, gives us so much to think about in Pinot terms. But I think what makes this one unique for me is the fact that it does come from a warmer climate. It's got slightly different acidity. It's got beautiful upfront red fruits, lighter fruit as well. So, not deep and dark, light red fruit. And it's got wonderful acidity. And again, I've had them when they were a bit older as well. They bottle age beautifully. Yeah, they're very cool. And Dan, if I just had to sit here tonight and drink these 2 bottles with you, I think it just sort of make my 2021 so much better. Start of the year, starting off quite well.
Yeah, we might need a debrief session offline once we finish off the show. What are you getting from yours? Is it still very fresh? Is it still very light to the palate?
Exceptionally fresh, light, crisp. It's not crisp, but it's light and it's very fruit driven. And I think although the wine is quite complex, I wouldn't mind giving this wine to somebody who's only starting to drink Pinot. I enjoy Pinots because they are softer and more elegant and slightly more feminine, and they work really well with food, and they're easy to pair with a variety of dishes. But for a novice Pinot drinker, and a lot of people said, I prefer heavy wooded wines and lots of tannin and stuff, and this wine isn't that. But even for a beginner, novice Pinot drinker and appreciator, this wine would really be great for them. And I think what works for me with Pinot is that we can slightly chill them in South Africa in summer, and you can enjoy this wine as a summer wine, even as a daytime, as a lunchtime wine. Have a glass of this, and it just won't make you feel heavy, or it won't make you feel like you've had too much to drink. It's a really elegantly and well crafted bottle.
So I'm kind of getting the future look at what you're drinking now, because this is the 2015. And it speaks to the value of also giving Pinot Noir a bit of age. And again, it doesn't have to be 10, 15 years, but at 5 years old, it's just got another layer of richness to it, so just a little bit more depth to it. I don't think it's lost its freshness. It's just aged a little in the right sort of way. And a bit like you and me, Bertus, got a little bit more mature, but we haven't lost our light touch.
That's amazing. I mean, Dan, if I think of all my other favorite Pinots, and there's lots of them, I'm a big fan of Hamilton Russell. So I like Anthony and Olive, and their sales team, Talita, is fantastic. And they've always managed to find me some older bottles when I ask very politely for them. And it's been amazing. And their wines love to lie for a bit. You want to have them a couple of years in. In Stellenbosch, we've got Friesenhof Pinot Noir, which is very unique to Stellenbosch. There's not much Pinot Noir Stellenbosch, but Friesenhof really is delicious. There's just we are so blessed with the wines, and they're not really Burgundian. They're not always Burgundy style wines, or they'll get criticized easily because it's not like what it is in Burgundy, but it shouldn't be. We have different sunshine, different water, different winemakers. Everything is very different here. Another winery that I love, the winery of Good Hope, Alex Dale, makes some really cool Gamay and Pinot and some really cool wines, interesting stuff. Also very light in style, and I love drinking them. So we've got some really cool stuff to pick and choose from at the moment. It's when we can buy wine, not right now though.
We can't buy wine. We can buy fried chicken from the South African Chef of the Year. So that is a silver lining to our current cloud. We can also get food at the other restaurants. But it's before we let you get back to an important meeting with Spec about the shop. The other restaurants, are they open? Are you still delivering? What else is happening with the Empire at the moment?
Sure. So Dan, Overture is open, Overture and the Deck, and it's going quite well. We're still doing meal boxes delivered, so you're welcome to order and we'll drop it off at your home. Acres open, Spec and Bone is a chicken shop, the Vrye Burger is open. One of the wonderful developments this year for us is we actually moving the Vrye Burger to a larger site in Stellenbosch, so just sort of a block up from where we are currently. We sort of have a need to have seating, and we're very excited about that. We were there this morning. It's a beautiful old historic building opposite the church in Dorstay Street in Stellenbosch. That's also happening. There's lots of positive things happening. We're very excited about 2021 and what it's going to hold for us. But if you are close to your local restaurant, I know that restaurants all over the world has sort of struggled. Just try and support your local restaurants as best you can. So grab a takeout, order a home meal, pop in for a meal if you can. So wherever you find yourself, lots of restaurants they just want to see their guests, and I think it's important if you can, and if you have the ability to support them, then just pop in and grab something from them. They really appreciate it. We all do. So yeah, happy eating. We're still there.
They are indeed. So either get out to one of them or order at home. And I think we've got the menu from Acre this week up on screen, which shows you the kind of food that we delivered to you. I've had a few of them sent up to me here in Johannesburg. That slow-cooked lamb shoulder with brandy glazed onion and gremolata sounds sensational. And the details down there at the bottom, your phone number, the info at acrerestaurant.com. Drop a list through, and Bertus's boss, Specs boss Murali, will make sure that you get sorted out. Bert, it's lovely to catch up. Congratulations, a little belatedly, because also not just the birth of a sort of new restaurant, but also there's another little Basson in the family since the last time we had you on the show. So congratulations there as well. A couple of last words from some of our viewers. Lisa Harlow, I think South African Pinot Noir has its own unique style, should be proud of that, and not likened to Burgundy. Daryl Balfour, hopefully the restaurants will still be open after the chat tonight at 8 o'clock. Kathy Rath, we salute you, Bertus. Love all your positivity. And simply from Melissa, Happy New Year. Well, it is for me when I get to chat to people like Bertus and drink great South African wine, which is exactly how we've started our first live tasting for 2021. Bertus, love to the family. Say hello to Spec for us. We tried to get him on the show, but his agent was very difficult. But tell him I'm looking forward to having lunch with him when I come down to Stellenbosch.
It's just expensive, Dan. Unfortunately, it's just such a pricey celeb to get on.
We may do with Bertus instead. Bertus, thank you. Good luck. Keep going strong, and thanks for putting smiles on our faces and making fabulous South African food.
Thanks.
So we go. Bertus Basson, reigning South African Chef of the Year, the man behind Acre, behind Overture, behind Vryburger, Speck and Burner, and now Specky's fried chicken with waffles in Stellenbosch. Just a really cool dose of comfort food from a great chef who's not afraid to show off his street food side and his gravitas for his gravitation towards a little bit of fast food as well. Remember, if you are not already, I know you can't buy the wine at the moment, but make sure you're prepared to buy it by jumping on to the Pick n Pay website if you haven't done so already, to become a member of the Pick n Pay Smart Shopper Club, and from there the Wine Club. And that will allow you all sorts of great benefits. 3 times the Smart Shopper points. You'll also get for yourself 20% off 10 wines each month, 25% off a Magnum deal and a case deal. And if you're buying 6 bottles or more, it is free delivery online. So get online. Yes, I know you can't buy right now, but start doing some browsing and see exactly what you'll have lined up for once we can buy wine again and we can support South African wine again. And that's exactly what Pick n Pay are doing with their commitment to buy 25 million bottles of South African wine in 2021 and get right behind a proudly South African industry. I'll leave you with some words from Phillip, who we chatted to a little earlier on the show. As a matter of interest, Robertson is a dry area in terms of heat. It is on average 1 degree warmer during summer, day and night, than Stellenbosch. Thus, although Pinot Noir works best in coastal regions, it can be very competitive from the Robertson region vis-a-vis the rest of the wine growing areas. It's a fascinating element if you are a wine anorak like me, and I hope you've got some interest out of it as well. Thank you for watching wherever you are. Remember, we're back on Thursday, and on Thursday we're celebrating 50 years of Bubbles, the Cup Classique Association. Peter Ferreira will be talking us through that and talking us through his night harvesting. What on earth are you doing, Bubbles? He'll tell us on Thursday. And Mike Ratcliffe, the CEO chairman of the Stellenbosch Wine Routes, will be celebrating 50 years of that particular entity and letting us know what they have got planned in as much as we can celebrate this year. Keep strong, keep safe, keep healthy, keep supporting South African wine. And if, like Lisa, you're watching from abroad, keep doing what I know you're already doing, and that is supporting South African wine. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again on Thursday. Have a great week. Cheers.